Okay, sorry for that interruption, but here we go. Okay, couple of updates from the Polish National Alliance. We will, according to reinsurance, we have to introduce our new long application. We have, it is already approved. I will be sending the application to all the agents. Just kind of reminder, we have two types of applications. We have up to 30,000 or below. That's our short application. And we have our long application. There is any amount, right? I will be sending that. I will be notifying you about this step that we're taking. April 1st, we will be, as agent, required to use those new application, but I will let everybody know.
Yeah, we would like you to start using them right away.
Thank you.
But after April 1st, if the new app is not used, it will be, the old app will be returned to the agent to get a new app. And again, it's regulatory. Some of the wording on the old application is no longer, we can't use it anymore. So with the new application, we've updated it. It's been approved by the states. So that's the application that we really need to use. So appreciate your cooperation.
Yes, thank you. You're absolutely correct. Please note that short application that you have is fine. It's just the long one. Any amount above $30,000 that's when we're using the long application. Just this, because sometimes I guess we get a little confused with that short application, long application. This is only pertaining to the long application. Also, we got the beautiful news Goda. We already right from the printers. Mr. Adam had delivered them on Tuesday. I mean, so we got it. It was beautiful. I know a lot of places is opening up, and we have different events going on in our neighborhoods. If you will like some, please let us know. We'll send you some. Miss Stella, Miss Chesney, I did receive your request, and Harinka already packed the this Goda to be sent to you. All right, now the good news. Drum rolls, right? Polonia for Ukraine. I had notified all of you that we had a Radiothon 2020. We received $165,000 in
great.
I think it's a great number. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, everybody that were able to contribute. And I know Mr. Spola really worked hard to get big donors in too. Yeah, I think that number is absolutely outstanding. Right, Tim? Also, the other thing, we would like to let you know that we will be ordering business cards. You as an agent, if you will like us to order you a business card, please let us know. Also, please let us know what would you like to have on that business card. But you know, we'll of course notify you and show you and provide you with the proof of that business card before we send it to the printer. I do want to mention that the charge for those business cards would be around $20. That would be 500 business cards that would be ordered. If you would like us to order, please let us know. And the next slide. It's not working. Second. All right. The next slide, ladies and gentlemen, is of course we're still in annuity season. Just kind of reminder that we have those brochures available, and also our annuity products and the interest rates that we offer.
we're putting those, I call them a buck slip, but it's a flyer, and we're including that in the mail that we send out from the home office. So any of the premium notices, dividend notices, annual statements will have that in them.
That would be all from updates from the Polish National Alliance. Tom, it's all yours.
Okay.
Just
we need to- yeah, there you go.
yeah, that's good. Switch gears a little here. I know it's always, we have this little pop-up thing, and it's always hitting us. All right,
Okay.
here you go, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today. And today we're going to talk about irrevocable life insurance trusts. Okay, and I call them irrevocable. Other people say irrevocable. I think the right pronunciation is irrevocable. And we're going to get into all that, but I wanted to start. First of all, I had, and I put this in my Monday message. I had an experience over the weekend. Life Happens, and we use Life Happens. It's an industry organization, and so many insurance companies subscribe to what Life Happens does. It's a consumer education organization, life insurance consumer organization, life and disability long-term care, but also it's very supportive of what the agents do in the field. And there's a lot of good free information on Life Happens. And if you are so inclined, you can go onto their website and see what's going on. But they do every year, they award scholarships, very similar to what we do. And they award about $250,000 in scholarships. And they get well in excess of 1,000 applications. So they ask for volunteers to screen these applications, the initial applications, and screen them, go over them, and rate them. And they rate them according to how compelling the story is. And what it is, it's people who want to go to college, who are in college, who need some help financially, and who have lost a parent or both parents or a guardian. And so these kids send in an application. Again, they're rated on how compelling their story is, how instructive it is in terms of how insurance would have helped, or how insurance did help, life insurance, in their own situations. And the last score is how determined they've been in terms of completing their education. And honest to gosh, I read these things, and the true grit of these kids is amazing. First of all, they're dealing with the loss of a parent, so they have depression issues, they have anxiety issues, and some of them they were age range. Someone talked about when they were 9 years old. They're all in high school or college at this point. But they talked about what effect it had in losing a parent, whether it was a father or a mother. And one of the things that the word that struck me as I was reading through these applications was, if my parent, whether it was a father or mother, had adequate life insurance, it sure would have helped. Now, they may have had some, they may have had none, but what the word was adequate that these kids used over and over again. And it just comes back to the fact that, with the fraternal insurance company, a lot of times we try to sell membership insurance, and that's fine. That's a good thing. I seriously believe that anybody who has an insurance policy now that they didn't have before is better off, whether it's 10,000, 15,000, or 150,000. But we really have to talk about selling what is needed in the given situation. And like I said, these kids were so determined to complete their education. One young lady had been working already at Walmart for 20 hours a week and going to high school. And she had to bump that up to 40 hours. So she would work on weekends and in the evenings, and because she had to contribute to the family income. And that's something that we don't always think about, is what the family income situation is. So I just kind of like to do kind of a brief review of the dime form that we have that's available to us. Okay, before I do that, according to LIMRA, Life Insurance Marketing Research Association, and again, that's an industry association, approximately 102 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. And that's what these kids were talking about. Either their parents didn't have insurance or they didn't have enough. And it accounts for a $12 trillion protection gap. And what that means is there is a need out there for $12 trillion of insurance. And overcoming that protection gap is a win for everyone. So we really need to ask people, we need to talk to them about their insurance. And that's good for us and it's good for them. And the last paragraph there, it sounds simple, but there's a few challenges we have to tackle as an industry to narrow that enormous protection gap. And one of the tools that we have at PNA is the DIME form. And what it is a simple conversation about debt, income, mortgage, and education. And really, there's three questions we want to answer when we talk about life insurance planning. And the first is, do I need it? Okay, almost everybody has some sort of insurance need. And whether it's to pay for funeral expenses or for the education or replace income. But then you start talking about how much should I have? And that's where the dime comes in handy. What kind should I have? Well, that really kind of depends on how much you can afford. And if we take a $500 premium and sell them $50,000 of whole life insurance, when we could have taken that $500 of premium and sold them $250,000 of term insurance, shame on us. We're not filling the need. And we have to really think about what we're doing out there. So do I need life insurance? Well, the answer to that question is, if someone depends on you for financial support, chances are you need life insurance. So is anyone dependent on your income? Do you have a mortgage? And I think I mentioned to you the last time we talked, the average mortgage is $189,000 in the United States. And there's a lot of people that don't have that covered. Are there any loans, debts, or other financial obligations? Will your children need funding for college or technical school? And, not everybody goes to college, not everybody goes to technical school, but wouldn't you like them to have that option? Do you have your final expenses covered by savings? Okay. It's so cheap to have them covered by insurance. Why would you want to use your savings to cover final expenses? And finally, the last question is about business. Will your partner employees be able to buy your family out or continue your business? And we're going to talk more about that in our next session, because I want to get into business needs. But you built a business, you own a business, and what's going to happen to that if something happens to you? Is your family going to have to step in and run it? Well, maybe they can't. Maybe you have younger kids. Maybe they don't know about whatever it is that you're producing. So will your partners be able to buy you out, or will an employee, a valuable employee that you have, be able to buy your family out if something happens to you? So and these are just some of the needs for life insurance. So Why do people buy that? Well, first of all, for burial and final expenses, 84% of people buy insurance for those costs. Lost income for survivors is the next. Pay off the mortgage is the next. Home expenses, which could be childcare and that type of thing. Tax advantage investment, and that number is high, 45%. People understand the advantages of life insurance, tax advantages. Pay for college is down there at 37%. But again, DIME handles these things. So is there an easy way to determine how much life insurance you need? Well, there used to be a rule of thumb, and that's, rule of thumb is a very, it's a poor generalization of how much insurance you should have. But when I was coming up through the ranks as an insurance agent, it was 5 times your income. And then it went to 6, and then it went 7. Now it's all the way up to 10 times your income. So somebody earning $65,000 a year should have $650,000 in insurance. So does someone who's earning $65,000, can they afford $650,000 of whole life? Probably not. We need to be able to add some term insurance in there. The quick analysis, as I mentioned, is the DIME. And then there's a comprehensive needs analysis, which if people have a more complicated asset arrangement, then you really kind of need to do a full-blown financial needs analysis. I have done that with people, and actually what I did was I took a full-blown financial needs analysis and sent it to them. And I said, fill this out. And then when you get it done, when you get all the blanks filled out in that financial need analysis, we're going to use the DIME to get it and to simplify the need. And that's what we did. Worked out very nicely. So here it is. It's on. It's available to you on the agent's website. DIME stands for Debts, Income, Mortgage, and Education. And we're going to go through a conversation. We have a 37-year-old who earns $65,000 and is married. Mrs. Prospect is 36 and she has a job. She earns $35,000. And they have, when we talk about debt, this includes revolving credit, auto loans, student loans, burial, and final expenses. So we include burial and final expenses in the debt amount. So they would like to have $20,000 in there for final expenses, and they do have auto loans of $12,000. And currently, they don't have any revolving credit. There aren't many people who are like that, but that happens every once in a while. So we have a total debt amount of $32,000. Mortgage, they have a $140,000 mortgage. Most people would really love to have a $140,000 mortgage because, as I mentioned before, the average is $189,000. How much would you like to provide for your family to stay in their own home? Well, 100%. Okay, so the total amount needed there would be $140,000. Okay. Income. Now, this gets a little more complicated, but it's not all that complicated. So they have an total income of $100,000, right? So what they recommend is that if there's $100,000 of total income for the family, replacement income should be about 70% of that, which would be $70,000. So the annual family income need is $70,000. Okay, multiply that by the number of years you need it. Well, okay, the kids are ages 8 and 6, and in 12 years, the youngest one will be 18. So and either off on the way to school or whatever. So we're gonna use 12 years of income. And so the total income replacement would be $840,000. Now I've got some notes over there. If the wife keeps working at $35,000, then $35,000 income replacement would be needed on an annual basis. So 12 times 35,000 is 428,000. It just happens to be half. So, and that's how the numbers worked out in this particular situation. But so we've got income needs of 840,000 or 420,000 if the spouse does not work. Education. Well, we got 2 kids, and what it says there is public in-state total, including room and board, would be about $22,000. So and it increases by 5% per year. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 100,000 there times 2 kids. So that's $25,000 a year for each child, and that's $200,000. So we add that all up, and it comes out to $1,212,000. He's already got $130,000 of life insurance. That's 2 times his income, and that's the group insurance that he has at work. Okay, and we include that because if he died, they would pay that. So the current shortfall on that is $1,082,000 and $662,000 if the wife continues to work. And at this point, we really need a premium commitment. And what I would say is, okay, so to take care of all of this, what could you afford on a monthly basis? And that's without taking bread off the table or, keeping the kids out of summer camp or whatever. What could you afford on a monthly basis, disposable income, to take care of all these needs? And the premium commitment I got was somewhere between $100 and $125. And frequently the question is, what will $1,082,000 cost me? Well, we can work on that and see where we can get in terms of an insurance amount and what the premium will be. And I really don't get into that at that point in time. But for your illustrative purposes, I ran $1,082,000 of life insurance at age 37, preferred non-smoker, and the monthly premium is $101.05. I can take care of $1,082,000 for $100 a month. Okay, and that's using the term policy. And believe me, we do not sell enough term insurance. I think we sold about 60 term insurance policies last year, and we're just not selling enough face amount. Okay, now, if we do the $662,000 route at age 37, preferred non-smoker, the premium is $62 a month. Okay, so we can keep the insurance affordable. They have the coverage. They've got it for 20 years at the same premium. 21st year, that premium is going to go up substantially. So we may need to go back and do some planning with them in the future. But my goodness, this is the kind of planning that we really need to be doing. And part of the objection that agents have is if we get into the $1 million range, they're going to need medicals and everything else. Well, yeah, that's true. There's a couple things about underwriting. The better underwriting you do, the more requirements that we get, the better our mortality is as a company, as an insurance company. And the better our mortality is as an insurance company, the better the premium pricing could be. So if we're doing good underwriting, which is the medicals and the paramedicals and the attending physician statements and the blood tests and the saliva tests, all those things, the better our underwriting can be, the closer we can look at people, and that'll have an effect on premium. So we've got an awful lot. I looked at our benefits paid out last year, and I'm going to put something out on this. We paid out $15 million in death benefits last year. That was a big year in terms of death benefits, and it was for the industry. A lot of that had to do with COVID, but I looked at how much we paid out. It was $15 million, and I looked how many policies, how many claims we had. The claims were like $3,500 per claim. Now, when you take an average, that means some were higher, some were lower. And that is a lot of the older policies that were sold for 1,000, 1,500, 3,000, 5,000. And those were membership policies. And the thing about that is that $3,500 really doesn't go very far when somebody dies. And we need to get back to our membership and say, hey, you know, in the policy holders that you have, if you have membership policies and that's all you got, we really need to talk about it. Because the average cost of a funeral these days, just the final expenses, is around $20,000–$25,000. And if they get $3,500 from us, is that adequate? That's the word the kids used, adequate. It's really not adequate. So I think we really need to turn our thinking around and start thinking about, okay, we need to have a conversation with people and ask them and see what their goals are, and see what their aspirations are, and see what they want for their family, and sell the right amount of insurance to them. So I'm passionate about the insurance business, and I don't know if you can tell that, but it's just, I think that filling needs is so important for us, and it's so important for our members and our clients. So I urge you to take a look at that dime. If you have any questions, call me, we'll talk through it. It's an easy thing to do, and it really helps people to get an understanding of and wrap their brains around, okay, I can do this with $100 a month. I can take care of all this and I don't have to worry about it. I can sleep easy at night. So I remember when I was a younger father, I had 5 kids, and I had a summer that I was going to paint the house, and we had a big Victorian house and went up 3 stories, and I was on a ladder way the heck up in the peak, and I'm holding on to the ladder painting like this because, you know, I was way up in the air. But my wife made me get more life insurance before I went up on the ladder. How about that? So, you know, I had 5 kids. I knew I was going to need a lot of life insurance. My wife is going to need money if something happened to me. So the spouse always knows, right? The other thing I learned is happy wife, happy life. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay. So other considerations, special needs. What if they have a child who has a special need? Okay, that requires all different kinds of planning. And we're gonna talk about the irrevocable life insurance trust today, but there's also a special needs trust. There's lots of different kinds of trust, and the special needs trust is, we can talk about that at another session, but it's something you need to know about. I don't know what the situation, I don't know why, but it seems there, and maybe it's just because we're more aware of it now, but it seems that autism is something that has really come up. And there are a number of autistic, and some of autism is not a death sentence, that's for sure, but there's many are very, very functional with autism. And actually my granddaughter is dating a guy who is autistic. They don't like to say that, but he has autism, and but he's very, very functional. But there's lots of different trusts. We need to know about special needs. Supplemental retirement, business succession planning. I mentioned that earlier. Key person protection, deferred compensation. There's a lot of different things that you can do with life insurance policies, and that's what we're all about in terms of these sessions. So we will get in. And I've got a green background for St. Patrick's Day. How about that? So the what and why of an irrevocable life insurance trust. So as I mentioned, there's lots of different kinds of trusts, but we're dealing strictly with insurance at this point, life insurance. And what we're really trying to do with a a trust is to protect the life insurance proceeds. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Ask yourself, do you want your family to have funds available to replace your earning power at your death? Okay, that's not only a trust question, that's a life insurance question. Would you like the value of insurance proceeds in your life to pass to your heirs, transfer tax-free and outside of probate? Well, you can use a trust. You don't have to use a trust because we can do that with a beneficiary arrangement, right? You want to make substantial gifts to charity without depleting the size of your estate that passes to your heirs. There are people who have lots of money who really want to give something to a charity. It may be something that they've become interested in. And a life insurance is a great way to do that. And using a trust to put the life insurance money into and having the trust determine where that money is going is a real safe way to do that. Will your heirs need cash to continue operating a family business at your death? Okay, and again, we've talked about that already. Do you want to make plans to provide for children from a prior marriage at your death? There's lots of blended families out there, and do we always know? Do we always want everybody to share the same in the death proceeds? Not necessarily. You want to protect the value of your estate from shrinkage due to the payment of estate settlement costs at your death. Now, we talk about estate tax, and you need to be talking to somebody who has an estate of about $12 million to be concerned about estate taxes. But there's also Illinois or state estate taxes, and the threshold on that is a lot lower. So someone who has money really needs to think about irrevocable life insurance trust. If any of these questions are answered yes, then an ILIT may be the solution. Okay, I'm going to say ILIT because irrevocable life insurance trust is too much. Okay. So what's a trust? It's a legal device, and it's drawn up usually by an attorney, or you can go to a trust bank or trust department of a bank and have a trust drawn up. But there's three entities involved in a trust. First of all, the grantor, and the grantor is the one with the money or the property. It transfers legal title to property to another person who is the trustee. Okay, the trustee manages the property according to the terms of the trust. And that could be the bank, it could be somebody else, but there's a lot of responsibility for the trustee. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they manage that money for the benefit of the beneficiary. So those are the three entities involved. You've got the grantor, you've got the trustee, and you've got the beneficiary. And there's a separation of the legal and beneficial interests in the property, and that's true in any effective trust. So the people who are getting the money and the people who are taking care of it need to be two different people. Trust can be a living trust, which takes effect during the lifetime of the grantor, or it can be a testamentary trust, which is created by the will and does not become operative until death. So again, you can have somebody else manage your money, a trustee, in a living trust while you're still alive, or you can have the trust kick in upon your death. Trust can be a revocable trust. Revocable. Okay. Meaning the grantor retains the right to terminate the trust during lifetime. Okay, and that's usually a living trust. Recover the trust assets, or it can be irrevocable, meaning the grantor cannot change or terminate the trust or recover assets. Okay, so irrevocable, you give up all the ownership of the property that you put into the trust. Okay, and again, as I mentioned, if you die in 2022, the value of your estate exceeds 12 million. Your taxable estate is subject to rates anywhere from 18 to 40%. Okay, so if you're talking to somebody with money, they really need to be aware of that, and they probably are already, but you can help them to pay those estate taxes with life insurance. In the orange box, that is orange, right? I'm not good on color. The objective of an ILET is to remove life insurance proceeds from the taxable estate, so the beneficiaries can receive the entire amount undiminished by estate taxes. Okay, so there's two ways you can do it. Trust, fund a trust. You can take an existing policy and transfer it in, or you can buy a new policy. The advantage to purchasing a new policy is that you don't have to worry about the cash value that's already in an old policy. You transfer an old policy into a trust, the chances are that you're making a gift to the trust of the cash value. So frequently people will, more frequently than not, people will purchase a new policy to fund an ILET. The other thing is that when you make when you gift a policy to a trust, there's what they call a 3-year look back. And if you die within 3 years, that gift that you've given comes back into your estate. Okay, so how we set this up, the ILET, is that we purchase a policy, we make the ILET the owner of the policy, and I, as the grantor, will make a gift to the trust, to the ILET, to pay that premium. Okay, and so I make a gift, but there's a beneficiary, right? And so I put in $10,000, and can that beneficiary get it out? Well, sure. If they want to, they can have it. The demand for the demand right. So there's what they call a crummy withdrawal power. And crummy was a law court case, crummy versus the commissioner. And it gives the trust beneficiary an annual right to demand withdrawal from the trust. So when I put that money in, the trustee has to tell the beneficiary that there's money in there and they can have it. They have to do it within 30 days of the gift. But they also only have 30 days to make the demand on the money. So, the little arrow there, if the demand right is exercised, the trustee must deliver the funds to the beneficiary. If the demand right is not exercised, the annual gift is then available for the trustee to use for premium payment. Okay, and the last paragraph there, since the beneficiary stands to ultimately benefit from the trust, and since a demand withdrawal from the trust may affect, okay, so if they make that demand, then there's not going to be money for the life insurance premium. They wouldn't do that because it really doesn't make sense. It's not in their best interest to take that money out. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, and this is how it goes. And this is kind of a complicated diagram, but the grantor makes annual gifts to the trustee. The trustee has to send out the crummy withdrawal notice, and the trust beneficiary can take the money out or leave it in. When they leave it in, the trustee makes a payment to the insurance company, and then if the person dies, when the person dies, the money goes back to the trustee and it pays the estate taxes. Okay, and that's how it works. It doesn't necessarily have to be only estate taxes. It can be income for the spouse. It can be a donation to a charity. So there's a couple of different things that you can do with the ILET. Okay, considerations. If you give an existing life insurance, the value of the policy is generally based on the policy's surrender value, but it's subject to gift tax, and it could exceed the annual gift tax exclusion, and that's about, I think it's $11,000 right now. Pardon?
in another line.
Okay. If death occurs within 3 years of giving the existing life insurance policy, the value of the death proceeds will be brought back into the estate for estate tax purposes. One other thing I'd like to mention about that is frequently when we do our advertising, we like to say that the beneficiary of a life insurance policy gets the proceeds tax-free. Well, that's not exactly correct. They get it income tax-free. And that's not exactly correct either, because if the beneficiary of the life insurance policy is the estate and the money goes into the estate, then creditors can get at that money. And also there may be income tax that the estate has to pay. And so then it wouldn't be tax-free to the beneficiary. So one of the things that we have to be very careful about, and I mentioned this last time, is how we name the beneficiary on a life insurance policy. And we need to have a named beneficiary so the money does not go back into the estate. If the beneficiary dies, we need to change the beneficiary. Now, if you have a first and a second, that's a good thing. But one of the things, we put this in Zagoda, you need to know where your money's going to go. And people need to know what the beneficiary is on their life insurance. They need to keep it updated. And we can help them with that. Okay. Annual gifts made to the trust for premium payment purposes must be subject to crumbing, but it also needs to qualify for the annual gift tax exclusion, which is $16,000 in 2022.
But that's for all the states or just the?
And that's federal.
That's federal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alternatively, gifts will be subject to unified federal gift and estate tax. So again, I mentioned that $12 million number before. That's $12,060,000 in 2022. That's the exclusion. Now, we talk about that estate tax exclusion. Money, property, real estate property, real property, and personal property going to the spouse. The spouse doesn't have to pay an estate tax. But when that spouse dies, there will be an estate tax too. That's a subject for another day. Okay, death benefit payable to the trust will not be included in the insured's taxable estate, assuming the insured held no incidents of ownership. So the trust owns the policy, not the insured. Okay. Death benefits are generally received free of federal income tax. Okay, trust can do a bunch of different things. It can control how death proceeds are distributed. You can do so through the provisions included in the trust. If your heirs are likely to need additional estate liquidity, okay, if they're going to need more money for something, continue the family business or the family farm. Lots of farms have had to been sold because there wasn't enough liquidity, or parts of the farm had to be sold. An ILET can provide that liquidity without insurance proceeds being subject to federal income estate tax. If you want to leave your loved ones a substantial life insurance estate, an ILET can be used to pass the full value of the life insurance proceeds to your heirs, estate tax free. You have children from a prior marriage, and sometimes I just saw this on Facebook last night. It was kind of an interesting picture, but it had adult kids, and then they parted and made way for the younger kids because the younger kids were from a second marriage, and maybe the adult kids don't need as much as the younger kids are going to need. So you can take care of that kind of a situation using an ILET and having the trust manage where the money is going to go for the kids. If your estate's likely to face federal estate tax liability, if you're over the $12 million home, and you know, estates happen a lot quicker than people realize, because if you own property, the value of property has gone up so much. And you know, if you own a couple acres, if you own 4, 5, 6, 10 acres of land, you're sitting on some money. So the ILET can replace funds used to pay the estate tax. Okay, so the death proceeds go to the kids. Again, I mentioned charity. If you have a charity, you can make that donation through your ILET. Okay, evaluate the potential drawbacks of the arrangement. The trust is irrevocable. You're no longer the owner of the life insurance policy. All you're doing is making annual gifts so that the policy can pay off when at your death. So the trust document is executed. You can't change the terms or terminate the trust. If the trust contains a crummy withdrawal provisions, the beneficiary could take the money out. And there is some expense involved. In addition to the possible trust fees, you should consult with an attorney experienced in estate planning. So there's going to be trust fees. There could be attorney fees in order to avoid unforeseen tax and distribution consequences. And those consequences cost a lot more than the attorney and the trust fees. So there's a checklist here. Again, this is recorded. It goes onto your website, agent website. This is in there. So if you want to take a look at it again, you can, but you've got to draft and execute the trust agreement, transfer existing life insurance or apply for a new policy, make cash gifts to the trust. And the trustee has to send the crummy withdrawal notices to the beneficiaries. Trustee pays a life insurance premium. And upon the grantor's death, the trustee manages the insurance proceeds and makes distributions according to the terms of the trust. So, naming a trustee. And, we talked about this when we talked about wills. A trustee is kind of like an executor of a will, and there's a lot of responsibility to that. While an individual or corporation, such as a bank or trust company, can be named to serve as trustee of an ILET, the insured must not be the trustee. Naming the insured as trustee will cause life insurance proceeds to be included in the taxable estate. So I can't be the trustee of my own estate. But when you name a trustee, and again, I would use the trust department of the bank personally, because if you name somebody who's a friend of yours as trustee, that puts a lot of pressure on them to perform. Okay, review. Life insurance proceeds held in an ILET can provide liquidity to pay estate taxes and as well as pay off debts and make donations to your favorite charity. Serves as a vehicle to manage and control life insurance proceeds. It's especially useful if the grantor has children who are minors, and you might have a guardian involved, or children who otherwise need financial protection. Again, we talked about the fact that you may be a business owner. You got kids. Are they going to take over the business, or does somebody need to be bought out? If it's properly drafted, it avoids gift tax consequences. You can make the contributions for premium payments to the trust, and they're gifts. And in order to avoid the gift tax consequences, they have to abide by the crummy tax case. Okay, using the crummy tax letter. And here's more about the crummy tax. The procedure qualifies a transfer for the annual gift tax exclusion, currently $16,000. Okay. Whether your estate is actually subject to the federal estate tax will depend on the size of your estate, the year you die, and this is great, whether future congressional action modifies the estate tax rules. And you can count on that happening. So anyway, any questions, any comments? And I give you this information not necessarily because you're going to do this type of thing, but because you need to know about it in case somebody asks you become the value added in a conversation about trust. And knowing about the different kinds of trusts and what you can do with life insurance in an irrevocable life insurance trust is valuable to people. So again, any questions?
I have a couple of questions. Just how do you approach this? Do you try to understand the amount of total dollars that you want to have at that as a death benefit, and then back into what the premium is? You're taking the example that you take the full 16,000, which is the annual gift tax, and then just put that whole thing in.
Well, no, you can go up to the 16,000.
Up to 16. That's what I mean. Do you suggest targeting the total amount you want in the trust and then backing it into what the annual premium is, or do you?
No,
Yes.
That's still a conversation about needs. I mean, if somebody wants to have $1 million or $2 million for estate taxes, what you do is you figure out what the estate tax is going to be first. And that's somebody with a large estate, or how much they want to donate to a charitable organization, or how much they want to have for kids. And then you back into the premium. Yeah. So you find out what the needs are going to be, and then
Okay.
Okay, we can do that with so much. And so $16,000, it seems like a lot of money, but there's agents out there, and my daughter works for an agent, and they do $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 annual premiums for people. I mean, and they have a pretty high end clientele, but there's people out there who are buying that kind of life insurance.
Yeah.
Good question. Thanks.
Okay, and then naming the beneficiary in the trust. What's the trade-offs between your children, having a beneficiary be your children versus your grandchildren? In other words, if you're concerned about, and I'm not, but if you're concerned about the marital partner of your daughter, for example, and you just say, okay, I want to make sure that their kid has the money, not necessarily it gets shared if there was a divorce or something like that. So can you just describe the trade-offs between choices of beneficiaries there?
And that's a great reason for having an ILET, and making sure that your wishes are made known to the trustee, right? And it's a trust. So when you die, the trustee is responsible for fulfilling your wishes that you made in that trust. And that's a legal responsibility. So it's really difficult for anybody to contest what's in an irrevocable life insurance trust.
Right.
If it's just in a will that I want this to go, then the widow or widower can contest that. And then you've got a situation where you have somebody making decisions that maybe you didn't want to have happen. If it goes into a trust, it's locked and loaded. So.
Okay. So in a case of if you designate your grandchildren, then if the grandchildren get the check, and then your actual kids have to figure out how to pay the estate tax.
Well.
Right. I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean.
Okay.
You would certainly want to make sure that the estate tax was taken care of, but then. In terms of the kids, you could be dealing with guardians also for minor children. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, thank you.
Joe, you look like you got a question. Okay, you're stroking your beard, man. That means okay, I can see you. Okay, all right. Well, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the questions, Rich. Call us if you need anything. We're here for you. So have a great day. Have a great St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. They turn the river green in Chicago. That's always kind of, I don't know. What they do is they put in an orange dye. And I thought, oh my God, they're going with the Orangemen. And that's the Protestants in Ireland. But the green, the orange dye turns green and the whole river gets green. to me, it's a little sickening, but they have a Green River.
Just imagine those fishies.
But
Ooh.
there's even a drink in Chicago that's called Green River, and they drink a lot of it on St. Patrick's Day.
So they're closing off a street?
They have a parade. They have a St. Patrick's Day parade, but and that's just that goes down State Street, I think. So, but it's a big deal in Chicago. St. Patrick's Day is really celebrated hard.
You know, I do have a question, Tom and Jolanta. That fundraiser for Ukraine that was very successful over the weekend. How do you know how the funds are dispersed and how they handle the money that came in?
Yes, it is disclosed. It is disclosed in the flyer that I had emailed, because it's going through the Polish American Congress with Red Cross, and there is another organization that was involved. I don't have that flyer with me.
Okay.
But yes, in that flyer, the Polish American Congress actually said who we're working with, how we're going to, when we're going to deliver, who are the organization. And I think it was a Ukraine
It's a Ukrainian organization.
It was a Red Cross and Ukrainian organization that are involved and that will be receiving the funds.
The reason I bring that up, here in Rockford, when Solidarity was formed, that was what, 1990s? I don't remember the exact year. A friend of mine and his wife and my wife, we played cards every Saturday. And when the Solidarity and the martial law came in, and we're sitting here having a drink, playing spades, and he says to me, he says, this is a history in the making. We got to get involved. And so we talked about it, some ideas, and we took it to our lodge meeting, and what to do with some ideas, and we came up with this idea of, well, let's have a fundraising dances. And we contacted the Polish Falcons in Rockford. They have a club here, or they used to. And we had like 4 dances. We raised $40,000. I mean, it was incredible for a small community, Polish community in Rockford. And then, we sat down and said, we never given a thought. What the hell do we do with the money now? It's a good problem, I mean, we've got this money. And so we contacted, it was Al Mazepsky, I think at that time. He was president of PNA. And I think he was also president of PASP, Polish American Congress. And he says, we'll take care of the money. So a number of us drove to Chicago and presented him with a $10,000 check. I don't remember how it was dispersed, what they did with it. But anyway, second 10,000, it was a food crisis in Poland. So what we decided, we worked through a company in England, and PAUC, or Polish American Congress, they had a list of families, supposedly families who had a member interned in prison for their membership or for their, whatever, involvement with the Solidarity. So we took $10,000, and the package of food was like $33, $35. So we, a whole bunch of us who worked on the committee, we filled out these applications with the addresses given to us, and we sent it through England. The packages went over to Poland, and I don't remember what size, but then whatever was in it. And what crazy thing about it was that it still haunts me, because my return address was, I used it. I was a vice president of the committee. And out of maybe 300 packages that we sent, I would say maybe half or less replied with a thank you. Majority of the people that came back said, that was nice, but really, could you send me a pair of blue jeans next time, or Nike shoes? And we just said, like, God damn it, I mean, we got taken. Only maybe a dozen of people who actually had a family member that actually was imprisoned or held by the authority. So the third party or the third check, the Solidarity was now, and they won the election. And we said, okay, we still have money. And the PA, Polish National Alliance and Polish Congress, they said, we have a need, or Poland has a need for MRI machines. They have a very, very limited number of them, and they were collecting money. So we sent another $10,000 to Polish National Alliance to donate to PAC for that. And I think there was like 4 or 6 MRI machines that were shipped to Poland from that. Okay, so what do we do with the last 10,000? And I mean, because there was obviously, we lost some faith in the way this thing was handled. So what we had decided to do was give it to the Catholic Charities, because they're the ones who brought in a lot of families from Italy, from Germany, and who escaped. And matter of fact, my friend who's no longer with us, also a PNA member, and his wife, they passed a couple of years back. And we even sponsored the family. They brought them to Rockford, but that's another story. So it's kind of in a couple minutes. It kind of brought back the memory when I was listening to the radio, when this telethon was going on, and it's just great. People responded, and this, but at the bottom, you always wonder, do the people who really need it, do they get it? That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I feel that. I really do, because I sometimes wonder the same thing, but we got to keep on giving. I mean,
oh yeah.
Not just there are situations like that happen, but it can't change what we're doing. You can't let it change what we're doing.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, the one thing, we talked about afterwards was we took part in making history in Poland. And I mean, what Ukraine is going through today, it's a crime.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and I know that Mr. Spool is really careful about where this money goes, and
Yeah, that's true.
I think you can be pretty confident when you donate to the PAC that it's going to go to the right place.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a good week, and
Thank you, sir.
we'll look forward to the next one.
Okay, thanks everybody for being with us. Have a good one.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.